So we'll start the last part of the syllabus, which is organic chemistry. Still, the stoichiometry moles left, but that is related to calculation, and it's not a lengthy topic. So just we will do a practice related to moles, and at the last, I will explain after completing this organic chemistry. This organic chemistry cover chapter 14 and 15, two chapters, but I will explain because both are interrelated. So first, like about 2 to 3 classes will be introduction to organic chemistry, like overview, and then we will start a chapter. When I will start the chapter, like I will mention that I am starting chapter 14 and then after that 15. But for at least like 2 to 3 classes will be introduction to organic chemistry. So you understand the basis of this or the basic things related to this organic chemistry. And you will not find this difficult. Hopefully, this is just because interrelated things are there. So for organic chemistry, we started with the term hydrocarbon. What is the meaning of the hydrocarbon? The term hydrocarbon means the compound which contain carbon and hydrogen only. So the compound which contain carbon and hydrogen only, this compound is known as hydrocarbon. For the organic chemistry part, I want everyone to write in the class, because the examples which I will give, I'll give you different examples. So I want you to copy the lecture at the same time. I'll give you time to copy each slide. It will be beneficial for you if you copy the organic chemistry specifically during, because for other things you have to memorize. For memorization, you can just make a specific time and you can memorize the thing. But for organic chemistry, understanding is important. That's why I want everyone to copy the slides, the explanation within the class. So hydrocarbon means the compound which contain carbon and hydrogen, we call them as hydrocarbon. The maximum, as we know, the carbon belongs to group 4. So how many bonds the carbon can form? Maximum carbon can form 4 bonds. So because of this, as the carbon can form 4 bonds, the hydrocarbons are divided into 3 main classes. What are the 3 main classes of hydrocarbon? One is called alkane, another one is alkene, and the third one is alkyne. So alkane, alkene, and alkyne. What is the difference between these hydrocarbons? In alkanes, between the 2 carbon atoms, there will be a single bond, because carbon can have single bond between them. Because maximum it can form 4 bonds. So between the carbon may have a single bond, we call that as alkane. If between the 2 carbon atoms, if there is a double bond, we call them as alkene. And between the carbon atoms, if they have triple bond, what we call them as alkyne. The 2 carbon atom cannot have 4 bonds between them. Why they cannot have 4 bonds? They cannot be a hydrocarbon, because the term hydrocarbon means they contain carbon and hydrogen only. So between the carbon, what is the one first possibility? They may have a single bond. Between the 2 carbon, they may have a double bond, and between the 2 carbon, they may have triple bond. If they have a single bond, that class of hydrocarbon is called alkane, and the name, you can understand, ane, so the name should have end at ane. If between them there's a double bond, the name should end at ene. And between them, if there's a triple bond between the 2 carbon atoms, there's a triple bond, then the name should end at yne. So you can see alkane, the name should end at ane, alkene, the name should end at ene, and alkyne, the name should end at yne. Copy this part. And when you finish copying this, just send a message. So I will identify how many of you finished and move on to the next part. Then the number of because the name of these hydrocarbons depend on the number of the carbon present. So example, you have to learn the table, the number of the carbon and the name according to, so you may have 1 carbon, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. There are ways for 11, 12, and so on, but you have to learn for first 10. If there is 1 carbon, the name should be meth. 2, it should be eth. 3, prop. 4, it will be but. 5, it will be pent. 6, it will be hex. 7, it will be hept. 8, it will be oct. 9, it will be non. So these are the prefixes which you will use if there is 1, meth, 2, eth, 3, prop, but, pent, hex, hept, oct, non. So these these decane or dec is for the 10th carbon. So you have to learn these prefixes, how these prefixes will help you to identify the name or the type of hydrocarbon. Example, I draw 1 carbon only. If there's only 1 carbon, because these are hydrocarbon. So if we say hydrocarbon, it means if only 1 carbon, so how many hydrogen will be there? Because the carbon maximum can form 4 bonds. So if only 1 carbon, how many hydrogen will be there for this compound? It will have 4 hydrogen, because if there's only 1 carbon, then carbon is actually forming a bond with hydrogen. Now, if a question is name this compound, how to name this compound? Because of 1 carbon, so what I will write? I will write meth. And because of a single bond, as in the previous slide I showed, if there is a single bond, what we call them? If there's a single bond, so we call them as ane, A-N-E. Alkane is there and the name should end at A-N-E. So it will become methane or methane. Meth, why it is meth? Because of 1 carbon. And why it is ane? Because of single bond. Is it clear how we name this hydrocarbon? Another example. Look, how we name this. If you want to name the hydrocarbon, the name of the hydrocarbon depends on number of the carbons which are present. Okay. First thing, in this structure, how many carbon atoms are there? You see only 1 carbon atom. If there is only 1 carbon atom, so if the structure contains only 1 carbon atom, what we call? We call them as meth. So I called this as meth. But the second thing is the type of the bond. If there is a single bond, then it should be ane. If double bond, it should be ene. If triple bond, it will be ine. Because a hydrocarbon can be alkane, alkene, or alkyne. So it is ANE. Why it is ANE? Because you will find a single bond. So meth because of number of carbon, and ane is due to the single bond which is there. So it will become methane. Is it clear? Why this structure is known as methane or methane? And what is the molecular formula? The term molecular formula means actual number of atoms which are present. No, actually the bond is between the carbon, and we check the bond between the carbon atom, but because there is only one carbon atom, so it is classified as alkane only, because with other hydrogen it is having a single bond. But normally when we check a bond between the carbon atoms. The molecular formula. What is the molecular formula? Molecular formula means actual number of atoms which are present. So molecular formula represent actual number of atom, 1 carbon and 4 hydrogen. So this is CH4. And what is empirical formula? Empirical formula is the simplest ratio. 1 and 4 is already in the simplest ratio. So like I cannot further simplify that 1:4 is a ratio between carbon and hydrogen. And that cannot be further simplified. So empirical formula is also CH4. Some compounds have the same molecular and empirical formula. Some can have different empirical and molecular formulas. Copy this one. I'll give another example. The term empirical, the molecular formula represent actual number of atoms. An empirical formula will show simplest ratio between the atoms. So first, from the structure we know there is 1 carbon and there are 4 hydrogen. So when 1 is there, we normally do not write 1, we just write that symbol. So it is CH4 is a molecular formula. Empirical formula is a ratio. So when I take a ratio between carbon and hydrogen, there is 1 carbon and there are 4 hydrogen, and I cannot further simplify it. 1:4 is the simplest ratio. Like I cannot further make it simple. So that is why empirical formula is also same as molecular formula.